All right, so today we're diving deep into the mind of Nikola Tesla. And to do that, we're using an excerpt from his autobiography. Now, you probably know him as this, brilliant inventor. But his autobiography reveals so much more than just his inventions.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating how Tesla's autobiography gives us this window into his unique worldview and how he connected his personal philosophies to his groundbreaking work.
Oh, totally. And one of the things that, really stood out to me was this emphasis on introspection. He believed that, understanding yourself, understanding your strengths and weaknesses was actually key to success in any field. He actually attributed much of his own health and achievements to this practice, which he developed in childhood.
It is interesting how he kind of frames introspection, not just as self-reflection, but as a tool for self-improvement. He saw it as a way to harness his mental energy and then direct it toward his goals. It kind of sounds like a precursor to modern mindfulness techniques, centuries ahead of its time.
That's such a good point. I wonder if Tesla's views on introspection could offer any valuable insights for us today, especially in our, fast-paced, always-on world. Do you think his approach could be relevant in a modern context?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, while the world has changed drastically since Tesla's time, the fundamental need for self-awareness remains constant. This emphasis on understanding your mental processes, recognizing your tendencies, and consciously directing your energy could be incredibly valuable today. Think about how, mindfulness and meditation are gaining popularity as tools for managing stress and improving focus. Tesla seems to have intuitively grasped these concepts over a century ago.
Totally. Okay, so Tesla believed in the power of introspection. But get this, he had some pretty unconventional views, particularly when it comes to stimulants. He claimed that coffee and tea are worse than alcohol, and that chewing gum causes irreparable damage.
I have to admit, when I first read that, I was a bit skeptical. Yeah, it is definitely surprising to hear those claims today, especially considering how common coffee and tea consumption is. But it's important to understand Tesla's reasoning. He argued that stimulants provide only temporary boosts, followed by crashes that deplete the body's natural energy reserves. He believed in achieving sustained energy through willpower and self-discipline rather than relying on external substances.
That's an interesting perspective. So he wasn't necessarily against these substances because of their inherent properties,
Yeah.
but rather because of their potential to create dependence and disrupt natural energy cycles.
Exactly. And while his views on the specific harms of these substances might not align with modern scientific understanding, his emphasis on self-regulation and avoiding dependence does resonate with contemporary health practices. We now know that excessive caffeine consumption can lead to anxiety, insomnia, and other health issues, while excessive sugar intake, often found in chewing gum, is linked to various metabolic disorders. So while his specific claims might be debatable, the underlying principle of moderation and self-control holds true.
I see what you mean. It's like he was advocating for a more holistic approach to health and well-being, focusing on building inner strength, rather than relying on these quick fixes.
Right, and this emphasis on self-mastery extended to his physical health as well. Tesla claimed to have maintained his weight and measurements for 35 years, which, if true, is a remarkable feat of self-discipline.
It is. And speaking of remarkable, there's this hilarious anecdote about Thomas Edison guessing Tesla's weight accurately. Apparently, Edison was able to do so because of his previous experience working in, wait for it, a Chicago slaughterhouse. It's a funny story, but it also hints at Tesla's almost superhuman dedication to maintaining his physical form.
That's a great story. It's amazing how these little anecdotes can reveal so much about a person's character. And Tesla's claims about his physical feats don't stop there. He also boasted about being able to land on his hands after slipping on ice, reading tiny print at age 60, and even escaping drowning by applying a scientific principle.
Wait, escaping drowning with science. Tell me more about that.
Well, according to Tesla, he was once caught in a powerful river current and was about to be swept over a dam. Just when all hope seemed lost, he remembered a scientific diagram explaining hydraulic pressure and instinctively turned his body sideways to reduce the force of the water.
Wow. That's thinking on your feet, literally.
Yeah.
But is it really possible to escape a powerful current that way? I mean, wouldn't the force of the water still be incredibly strong?
It's certainly a dramatic story, and the effectiveness of his technique might be debatable. But the underlying principle he describes, that the pressure exerted by a moving fluid is proportional to the area exposed, is sound. By turning sideways, he would have reduced the surface area, facing the current, potentially lessening the pressure against him.
So there might be some truth to his story after all. But Tesla attributed his survival to his inventor's instinct. Do you think it was really instinct that saved him? Or was it more about his scientific knowledge?
It's an interesting question. Perhaps it was a combination of both. His deep understanding of scientific principles, coupled with quick thinking under pressure, might have indeed played a role in his survival. But as with many autobiographical accounts, separating fact from embellishment can be tricky.
I guess we'll never know for sure. But either way, it makes for a captivating story. And speaking of stories, let's rewind a bit and explore how this inventor's instinct first emerged in Tesla's childhood. I mean, we're talking about the early sparks of genius here.
Absolutely. To understand Tesla the inventor, we need to understand Tesla the child. And luckily, his autobiography provides a vivid glimpse into his early years, filled with adventures and experiences that foreshadowed his later achievements.
All right, I'm ready for some childhood Tesla tales. What kind of mischief did young Nikola get into? Let's unpack this story.
Well, from a young age, he displayed a remarkable curiosity and a knack for experimentation. We see it in his childhood games and activities, which often involved tinkering, building, and exploring the natural world around him. He would catch frogs with makeshift hooks, harness the power of May bugs for his inventions, and even dismantle clocks to understand their inner workings.
That's so cool. It's like he was a natural-born engineer, even as a kid. But I'm sure all that tinkering wasn't always welcomed by his parents. Any stories of childhood mishaps or scoldings?
Oh, absolutely. He recounts a particularly amusing anecdote about his crop-destroying sword fights with sticks. Apparently, he and his friends would engage in these epic battles, oblivious to the damage they were causing, to the surrounding fields. Needless to say, his mother's punishments were swift, and as he describes, quite effective in curbing his destructive tendencies.
I can only imagine. It's a funny story, but it also shows that even young Tesla had this drive, this intensity. That sometimes got him into trouble. But beneath all the mischief, you can see the seeds of his future brilliance.
Absolutely. And one of the most striking examples of this is his early fascination with Niagara Falls. He describes being completely mesmerized by its power and grandeur, even as a child. It's almost as if he could already envision harnessing its energy, a vision that would later become a reality, with his pioneering work in hydroelectric power.
Wow, talk about foreshadowing. It's amazing how these early experiences can shape a person's path, almost like destiny was calling. But let's not forget about those near-death experiences. Tesla had quite a few close calls in his youth, didn't he?
He did. And these experiences, while terrifying, seemed to have a profound impact on him. They reinforced his belief in the power of knowledge and the importance of understanding the laws of nature. One particularly captivating story is his near-drowning experience in the river.
Oh yes, the one where you use science to survive. That's a story I have to hear.
Well, as Tesla recounts, he was swimming in a river with friends. When he was caught in a powerful current, he was being swept towards a dam. And it seemed like certain death. But in that moment of desperation, he remembered a scientific diagram he had seen, illustrating the principle of hydraulic pressure.
So even in a life-or-death situation, he was thinking like a scientist. That's incredible.
It is, and instinctively he turned his body sideways to reduce the surface area facing the current. Applying the principle he had learned, he believed this action lessened the pressure of the water and allowed him to escape the current's deadly grip.
Wow, that's some serious quick thinking under pressure. But Tesla believed his survival was due to more than just science. He claimed his inventor's instinct saved him. What do you make of that?
It's fascinating how he attributes his escape to this innate instinct, this intuition, that guided his actions. It makes you wonder, was it truly instinct, a sixth sense of sorts? Or was it simply his deep understanding of scientific principles, manifesting in a moment of crisis?
That's a great question. Maybe it was a bit of both. Perhaps his scientific knowledge provided the foundation, and his instinct kicked in to apply it in that crucial moment. It's like his mind and body working together in perfect harmony.
Exactly. And this interplay between instinct and knowledge seems to be a recurring theme in Tesla's life. It's as if he had this innate ability to sense the underlying patterns of the universe and then use his intellect to harness them.
That's a powerful image. It's like he was both a visionary and a master craftsman, able to see the potential of the unseen and then bring it to life through his inventions.
Precisely. And as we delve deeper into his autobiography, we'll see how this unique blend of intuition and intellect shaped his remarkable journey and led to some of the most groundbreaking innovations in human history.
I can't wait to hear more.
Picking up where we left off, Tesla's teenage years were just as eventful and insightful as his childhood. As he enters adolescence, we see this tension between his internal world of ideas and the external pressures of society.
You know, it's interesting how you describe that tension. Reading his autobiography, I got the sense that Tesla was always wrestling
Yeah.
with these competing forces, his desire for solitude and deep thought versus the need to engage with the world and prove himself.
Exactly. He talks about how, as a teenager, he became obsessed with gambling, not for the thrill of it, but because he was determined to master the game. Through sheer willpower and calculation, it's almost as if he was trying to impose order on chaos, to bend chance to his will.
It sounds like he applied that same mentality to everything he did, whether it was gambling or inventing or even his physical fitness. He approached it all with this incredible intensity and focus.
And this drive often led to conflict, especially with his father, who wanted him to follow a more traditional path. Tesla's autobiography hints at these clashes, these generational differences in worldview. It's a familiar story even today, the aspiring artist or entrepreneur who struggles to gain the support of their family.
Right, that clash between following your passion and meeting societal expectations. Tesla ultimately chose his passion, but it couldn't have been easy. But you know what really struck me about his teenage years was his description of his first love.
Oh yes, the story of his infatuation with a beautiful white pigeon. It's one of the more peculiar anecdotes in his autobiography, but it offers a glimpse into his deep connection with nature and his almost spiritual reverence for beauty.
It's a strange story for sure, but it also reveals this tenderness and sensitivity that you might not expect. From someone known for his scientific mind, he writes about this pigeon with such affection, almost like a soulmate. It makes you wonder how this deep connection with nature influenced his work.
It's a great question. Did his sensitivity to nature's beauty inspire his vision for a world powered by clean energy? Did his fascination with the pigeon's flight mechanics fuel his later experiments with flying machines? It's impossible to say for sure, but these connections are certainly intriguing to consider.
Absolutely. It's like we're getting a glimpse into the hidden inspirations behind his inventions. But even with this deep connection to nature, Tesla eventually had to leave his rural home and move to the city. And it sounds like that transition wasn't easy for him.
No, it wasn't. He describes the city as a chaotic and overwhelming environment. A stark contrast to the tranquility of the countryside, he felt out of place, surrounded by strangers, and bombarded by constant noise and activity. It seems like a classic tale of a sensitive soul struggling to adapt to the harsh realities of urban life.
And he had some pretty awkward encounters, too. I remember reading about his first time attending church in the city, where he had a rather embarrassing run-in with a grand dame and her enormous train. I can only imagine the scene.
It's a hilarious anecdote. Picture young Tesla, this shy and awkward teenager, tripping over a woman's massive dress in the middle of a church service. It's a reminder that even brilliant minds have their share of embarrassing moments.
Totally. It makes him seem more human, more relatable. But even in those awkward moments, Tesla's quick thinking and ingenuity shone through. Like the story about the fire pump demonstration, where he saved the day.
Ah, yes. The town's new fire pump wasn't working properly, and everyone was in a panic. But Tesla, with his understanding of mechanics, was able to diagnose the problem and fix it on the spot, becoming the unexpected hero of the day.
It's a perfect example of how his practical skills and problem-solving abilities emerged early on. From there, his fascination with mechanics really took off. He was building water turbines, tinkering with clocks, even creating his own pop guns.
His inventive energy was unstoppable. And amidst all these experiments and projects, we see this recurring theme of harnessing natural forces. His early fascination with Niagara Falls, his attempts to build a perpetual motion machine. It all points to his desire to understand and control the fundamental energies of the universe.
That's so true. It's like he was constantly seeking ways to tap into the hidden power of nature, to unlock its secrets and make them work for him.
Exactly. And this ambition, this relentless drive, is what ultimately led him to become one of the most innovative minds of his time.
Okay, before we move on to his adult life, I have to ask about the arbalists. These were basically mini crossbows that he built right. He even claimed to have developed crocodile-like skin on his stomach from tightening the bows.
Yes. It's one of the more colorful anecdotes from his youth. It speaks to his dedication, his willingness to push himself to the limit, even if it meant enduring a bit of discomfort.
I mean, crocodile skin. That's some serious dedication. But I have to wonder, is that even possible? Or is it just another example of Tesla's tendency to embellish his stories?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's not entirely out of character for Tesla to push the boundaries of what's possible, both physically and mentally. Remember his claims about maintaining his physique for decades.
That's true. Maybe we should give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. But speaking of pushing boundaries, we can't forget about his slingshot skills. Cutting a fish in half with a well-aimed stone, that sounds almost superhuman.
It does. It's a testament to his precision, his focus, and perhaps a touch of showmanship. It seems like he enjoyed demonstrating his abilities, pushing the limits of what people thought was possible.
It's like he was a magician with a slingshot. And all these stories, all these experiences from his youth, they paint a vivid picture of the man who would go on to revolutionize the world with his inventions.
Absolutely. They reveal the seeds of his genius, the unique blend of curiosity, determination, and unconventional thinking that set him apart.
All right, so we've covered Tesla's childhood, his teenage years, all the adventures and mishaps that shaped his early life. I'm eager to hear how all of this translates into his adult life and his groundbreaking work. What are some of the key takeaways from his early years that we should keep in mind as we delve into his later achievements?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Tesla's brilliance wasn't simply a product of innate talent. It was cultivated through years of experimentation, observation, and a relentless pursuit of knowledge. His childhood experiences, both the triumphs and the failures, played a crucial role in shaping his unique worldview and fostering his inventive spirit.
That's a great point. It reminds us that genius isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop through hard work, dedication, and a willingness to embrace the unknown.
Exactly. And as we explore Tesla's later life, we'll see how these qualities honed in his youth propelled him to achieve feats that once seemed impossible, forever changing the course of human history.
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about all these experiences from his youth, from catching frogs to building arbalésts, shaped the mind of the man who would go on to light up our world.
It really does highlight the interconnectedness of life, doesn't it? How seemingly insignificant events can have this ripple effect, shaping our passions and ultimately our destinies.
Right. It makes you wonder about our own lives, the experiences that have shaped us, and the hidden potential within each of us. But we've only scratched the surface of Tesla's story. His adult life was filled with even more incredible achievements, groundbreaking inventions, and let's be honest, a fair share of controversies.
Oh, absolutely. Tesla's life was anything but ordinary. He was a visionary, a showman, and some might say a bit of a mad scientist, but it's that unique blend of brilliance and eccentricity that makes him so fascinating.
Totally. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Tesla's world, what are some of the key takeaways that you think our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's a culmination of experiences, influences, and yes, even failures. Tesla's story reminds us that the path to greatness is rarely straightforward. It's filled with twists and turns and unexpected detours.
Yeah, and that it's okay to be a little unconventional, to think outside the box, and to challenge the status quo. Tesla certainly wasn't afraid to go against the grain, and his unwavering belief in his own vision ultimately led to some of the most groundbreaking technological advancements in human history.
Exactly. He reminds us that progress often requires a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom and to pursue ideas that others might dismiss as impossible.
And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of that inventor's instinct doesn't hurt either.
Perhaps that intuitive spark, that ability to see connections where others see only chaos, that might be the secret ingredient to unlocking our own potential, whatever our field of endeavor.
Well said. So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to explore more about Tesla's incredible life and work. You might be surprised by what you discover. And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to tap into your own inner inventor.
Because as Tesla's story shows us, the power of human ingenuity is truly limitless.